Hi there, I'm Tony Jolly. I'm your teacher for your unit on les enjeux de développement durable. In other words, this is how do we deal with the possibility that we need to both develop and protect. In fact, the first thing I would ask you to notice is that in English, the word is sustainability. If you want a translation, durabilité. Why then do French people, does the French system translate that as développement durable? There's a difference between the two. Développement durable suggests that there should always be development and we should try to make it durable. Whereas sustainability suggests that in some cases, to sustain what we have, we don't develop. We've got a fundamental issue there with our terminology. Anyway, that apart, what is my background? What are my credentials? What do I have to offer you as far as this unit is concerned? Well, first, as you will gather from my voice, I am in fact English. I am a native English speaker, although my wife would dispute that because I was born in Manchester, and Manchester is reputed to have a certain accent. But I have lived so much of my life in France and in the south of England that most of my accent, my Mancunian accent, has dropped away now. So hopefully I am a little more understandable. In terms of sustainability, where do I stand? Well, early in my career, I worked for the Southern Tourist Board in England, an organisation that managed tourism at regional level in the south of England. We didn't cover London, but pretty much everything else. I did a number of roles there and also subsequently became head of research and development. Again, the implication was development is good, development is right, we must develop. Why? Because tourism was seen as an agent of development, an agent of creating jobs, creating money. Therefore, it was deemed as good. I must admit, early in my career, I was doing all I could to achieve those objectives fairly uncritically, not necessarily thinking about the consequences. But gradually, in fact, rapidly, I guess, I came to terms with the fact that the industry in which I was working had been spoiling so much of the world, especially its coastlines. Here's the challenge. Pause the video in a moment and go and have a look at Google image search and search for Torremolinos, 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 and look for images from the 1950s and compare them with images from the 1990s through to the 2000s that we're now in. Have a look at the difference. Torremolinos will never again be a sleepy fishing village populated by local Spanish people with all of their customs and heritage intact. Their land was either sold or taken away, built on largely not by Spanish corporations, but by large inward investors bringing money, international hotel groups who would quickly build those hotels. So all of a sudden, the people who lived there were cut off from their land, driven away from the sea and the productive land that had been the family's income for generations. That cut the cord between the local people and the place. If you look now, you don't hear Spanish spoken in Torremolinos. You will hear a lot of German and a lot of Eastern European languages. German because a lot of the tourists are German, and Eastern European languages because for the most part with the disparity of salary ranges, a fairly low salary in Spain is still worth more than a medium to high salary in some of the countries of Eastern Europe. So in fact, the opportunities are fairly attractive to people. But it does mean things have changed completely. My industry, the industry I represented, was responsible for so much of that. In the 1960s, with the advent of the 737, the Boeing 737, which all took us abroad very, very cheaply to new build hotels and guaranteed sunshine, with that came that development. And we developed early on in the 60s in Spain, the coast of Spain. Then we moved on to the coasts of Portugal, the Algarve. Then we moved on to certain North African coastlines like Kenya. Since then, we've been to Turkey. And I remember a famous advert that the Turkish Tourist Board ran and Thompson's, the tour operators, ran. Come to Turkey before it's spoilt. And in coming to Turkey, we spoiled a lot of it. Turkey's still a beautiful country in the interior and still has some lovely coastline too, but much of it has been willfully destroyed by the tourism industry. So the industry that I was part of was responsible for doing a lot of damage. I began to think about that, and for various reasons, I moved to become a lecturer at Bournemouth University, a senior lecturer in tourism. But my specialities were very much in environment and tourism, controlling and managing development to fit within the environment, trying to advise developing countries how to develop their industries without spoiling their local culture, without ruining their local facilities, their coastline, their natural habitats, etc. So I spent quite a lot of time doing that, teaching tourism and environment. And then subsequently, in 2005, I came to France, where I've been working at the UHA at both IUT, Colmar, and here, at the Ilberg campus, where I've been teaching English and business management, but mostly at the Fonderie, where I've been teaching business management, intercultural management, a number of other subjects related to management, and for a number of years have been teaching on the ESS program and also on RSE, now IES. So I have a background in doing this. In addition to which, I'm also involved in sustainability within the community. I live on the edge of Mulhouse. I live in Brunstatt with my wife and my family. About 4 or 5 years ago, there was a threat to a piece of land that I can see from my office window here at the end of our road, which is a beautiful green lung for the area. It's a residential area, a very big residential area, mostly of houses with just 2 stories, 2 niveaux. And I heard that a developer was proposing 2 towers of 18 and 15 stories. So 9 or 10 times taller than the average house in our area. So with a band of friends, we banded together, created an association called Préservons Brunstatt-Diedenheim, of which I'm the secretary. And we managed to fight the developers, and in fact we also managed to fight the local council because they were quite supportive of this concept, and we managed to get the whole thing changed. The development proposal was taken away, and the POS, the PLU, the documentation that determines what can and cannot be developed, is being changed to make this piece of land into an îlot de fraîcheur, to be able to protect it and preserve it. As a result of that, The local council, after the election, the local council changed dramatically. A new party was in power who was much more sensitive to the environment. And they thought that they would create something which was a Commission de Développement Durable. And they invited citizens. Would you like to come? Would you like to participate in this? Would you like to contribute ideas? Would you like to actually get out there and help practically? Not just discuss and expect us to do something, but get involved with your local community and change things. So myself, my wife, my family, we became members of this Commission de Développement Durable. And we have 5 or 6 different projects running at the moment. I'm involved in 2 or 3 of them. I'm involved in one, which is, and you can look this up, it's a great video. It's an English idea called, in French, the incroyable comestible, the incredible edible. Our local version is potager partagé, where we have a piece of land that can be cultivated. It's local authority, local government land. Anybody can come and cultivate. You can't say this bit is mine. We all plant together. We all look after the area together. We all water together. And anybody who wants can come and actually pick what grows. And what our aim is to identify pretty much any land in Brunstatt-Dietenheim. And if it's public land or it's just available, lying dormant, to see whether we cannot grow things on it that people will want to eat, to get our hands back in the earth, to grow trees that can keep the harshness of the sun off us and reduce temperature. If we drive from here to Brubeck, just up the hill, we go through woodland. And as you drive through woodland, you can watch your temperature gauge in the car drop 2, 3, 4 degrees because there is so much shade and because the trees are actually protecting the ground from echoing back the sun's heat. So I've been fairly heavily involved in that. I'm also a founder member of what we call the Repair Cafe. My wife is on the bureau of the Repair Cafe. And what we do is say to anybody in our local area, look, before you throw something away, why don't you come and check, just in case we can repair it for you? Come along, have a coffee, bring some cake, we'll sit, we'll have a chat. You could watch somebody looking at your machine and trying to repair it for you. If we can repair it, we will repair it. Our time is free. If you need a part, we can tell you how much it'll cost, where to get it, get the part, come back, and we'll fix it. We even held one of these repair cafes at the beginning of this year, just before COVID, at the Fonderie, and we managed to have 40 items brought to us, and of those 40, all 40 were repaired. 36 of them were repaired sur le champ at the Fonderie, and students who staff who brought things into repair went away with them, repaired. Some people were wearing pullovers they had not worn before, or carrying telephones or watches that were now working, or riding home on a VTT, which had now been repaired and was usable, even when shops said, oh, we can't do anything with this. So I'm fairly heavily involved in that too. So I hope that you will see that I have an academic and professional interest. Beyond that, I also have a strong family interest. I suppose 15 years ago when I first moved here, I would drive from the campus past Super U on a Friday night, buy everything that I wanted, and come home and put it in the fridge, the freezer, and the cupboards. Now things are totally different. We go and plant as much as we can around the house, so we grow our own food, and we know it's bio, we know it's good for us. We try to buy produce, fruit and vegetables which are from the area and in the season, and we buy from small producers. We try, if we're buying meat, to buy from small local producers as well, rather than big international edifices where most of the money goes on the brand or to a supermarket shareholder, actionnaire. Why? So that the money we spend goes into the pockets of people we see, people we know, people who live where we do. They then have money to spend, and they spend it in the local area like we do. Result, more money in the local area circulates, more jobs are created, there's more chance that our children can stay here if they want to, because they've got a job. We have a more vibrant community. So it isn't just about being green, it's also about being green in a way that can grow our economy too. And myself, my wife, and our family are getting fairly heavily into that. So I think at a personal, professional, and academic level, I'm involved in Développement Durable. I've been teaching it since 1988. And if you think about it, the World Commission on Environment and Development, the Rio Conference, was 1991. It actually predated that, and I was already teaching this at degree and master's levels. So I hope you'll agree that I have something to offer about the subject, and I have enough experience of trying to do things on a small personal level and with the local community, which can perhaps make you interested and add some colour to what we're discussing. I wouldn't like this course just to be something that happens out there. For me, sustainability is not just about head knowledge, facts and dates and reports and the date of Kyoto or the date of the Paris Accord. It's not about that. It's what happens here. Yeah, here. It's what you believe, not just what you know, and what you are prepared to do. So some of the things we're going to be looking at will not just be about international and national reports and initiatives. It's actually going to be starting with you. Do you remember the old thing I think it was in the American Civil War or the First World War, your country needs you. Well, yeah, the survival of the planet needs all of us, and it starts with you. So I'm going to try to get you to think about this from the you point of view first. Once you've understand where you stand and why, perhaps we've got more chance of being able to really attack these things which are slowing us down. We cannot just assume that the powers that be, agencies, governments, international agreements, are going to magically sort it all out if we are not prepared to be part of that change and possibly even to lead that change. Just as an example, well, if you were to go up the road just a little bit towards Strasbourg, turn right and go to Freiburg. In Freiburg, there are two communities, both with 25,000 people who are living a carbon zero life. They require virtually no electricity. They produce virtually no CO2. In fact, in some cases, they produce more electricity than they use. Well, that's just over there. Our cultures are not so different. How is it possible that 50,000 people can do that? But we're not there yet. How is it possible that a person, strangely enough, a French person who went to the United States, more about her later, wrote a book on this issue of zero waste. And she has written a book and said that you can reduce the waste you produce from tons a year to something that will fit between your hands. And that could save you 30 or 40% of your entire disposable income for the year. Imagine that's the equivalent of a rise of your salary of more than 40 or 50%. That's incredible. She wrote that book 7 or 8 years ago. The latest statistic that I saw suggested that there are, in the M2 area, 8 people who are now actively striving to live a zero waste life. A solution? A massive saving of money? 8 people. Why hasn't this converted more? There's something somewhere that's not right. Something that's stopping us managing to make that move. We talk about being aware of something, but then there's being interested, desiring something, and acting. AIDA, A-I-D-A, awareness, interest, desire, action. My question at the heart of this course is, where are you and where am I on that continuum? And how do I move through it? So I hope you're going to see that this should be interesting, because we're going to look at the area of sustainability, the idea of sustainability from the inside out, rather than just look at the headline level, at the level of the world, which doesn't really seem to touch us that much. Okay, there we go. I hope that's going to interest you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.